What's up, everybody? Sorry, we're a little behind the time I originally planned, but it's fine. It's fine. It's just don't even worry. So I'm joined here with my friend and partner in crime, Fuse ago. Why don't you introduce yourself, Fuse?
Hello. Uh, yeah. Introductions for myself. I'm introduced. It's pronounced Fusegu, by the way. Fusegu.
Fuse ago.
Right.
Okay. I don't know.
Thank you.
But yeah. Okay. So yeah, Fusago's here with me, and we're gonna answer your questions about either me or you can ask about Fusego too if you want. Um, Pro tip,
This was
Fusego.
unexpected.
Well, if, like, you said this is inflame my ego, so now I'm deflecting that by letting them also inflate your ego. So, ha!
Oh, you're deflecting. Uh,
Okay, so anyway, I got the chat open. So, first off, like, people usually do take a bit of time to get here, but guys, it's up to you to ask questions. That's sort of the thing. But until you get going, Fuse has prepared three questions. So, Fuse, why don't you go on ahead? If they're about my game, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Like, we got options.
actually, the questions that I prepared ahead of time were more in line, definitely with deving in general. Nothing specific
That's
about
fine.
any of
Go
the
ahead.
games.
Go ahead, man. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So let's take a writing bend
All right.
because I like to fancy myself writer. So when you're doing you're writing your games, your dialogue, and what have you. Um, Talk a little bit about the process there. Like, how many drafts does it usually take you? How do you? What's the process
Ooh.
of coming up with all that wit and charm you put into your characters?
Oh man, like before I write anything in the actual game editor, I usually make like at least 10 documents where I just have characters do conversations with one another. So I can get a really good idea of how they would react to different situations, and I also usually make sure I place a part of me in them. So I can just think, okay, how would this part of me react to this? So I can get a very good dynamic going. That's how the characters in Fantasia, which everyone seems to really love, were like sort of done. I gave them each their very own solid dynamic and also a very clear way in which they would interact. So that's part of it. Then once I actually start writing dialogue, usually it takes. I will usually write out the dialogue in the game, but then usually I'll end up rewriting some of it, if not a lot of it, depending on, hey, this doesn't actually sound as good as I thought it did. Something that also really helps for making things sound really good is actually voicing them out yourself. This was a thing I did a lot in PFC. The only character I didn't do it with enough, obviously, was Nola in the beginning because she's a bit weird. But that's basically what I do. Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because I think from all the writing courses and like author Q and A's that I've read, all of them pretty much suggest, hey, read your stuff out loud because you'd be surprised how different it sounds. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the
yeah. That's exactly it. Like,
voicing it yourself, I guess, does that, huh?
yeah, yeah. Also, if you're having a bit of a block, music usually helps, especially if you can find a good music for a scene. I know myself, I have like 6 gigabytes of music on my hard drive, which just all in a folder. Like, and then there's a bunch from just about a lot of things. Like, if you go, I'll send some streaming. This is my music folder. As you can see, it's huge, and I have some stuff that isn't actually got in the folder yet. But yeah, 'cause all kinds of stuff. There's even stuff from Killer Instinct, for Christ's sake. So it's yeah, that's the that really helps. Is I guess what I'm saying. All right. So I guess that answers that question. I just one final addendum on that question. People, please send questions so I can actually answer something. Um, let me just. Where is it? Right. That's why I don't actually have a bookmark for some absurd reason. I'll have to fix that. They're right here. There we go. So this is my let me just wait for the stupid template. Right. So these are my Google Docs. Oh shit! I didn't set the timer. There we go. I fixed that. Um, so yeah, these are my Google Docs. Most of these are just me writing out scenes that haven't happened yet or have happened, but I'd like to redo them. Like there's a whole one where I just go into Tristie's sort of character, which is I've had open recently apparently. There's also ones just about world building, like the dimensional matrix theory, which led me to the discovery of how triangles are so relevant. All this kind of crap. And I've also got like here. I've actually been borrowing a lot of dialogue from this with the current stuff I've been developing. Because not that, sorry. That's major plot points. Those are also super important. So basically, I just have every major plot point written down. I'm up to about where is it? Freaking. Oh god, there's a lot of those missing. Anyway, yeah, currently I think there's just a bunch the work that goes into it. Like I never second guess anything. I really try to make sure that I get everything. And I also hyper-analyze my old works to see where I went wrong. And this is what this document is about, story breakdown and analysis of why my stories work and some don't. So yeah, and I've got the whole like 8-piece pie. If you are trying to get into writing, I highly recommend this. This is a 8-piece story pie. I forget who by, but Den Harmon. He basically just goes into this, so I'll actually link that in the chat, because that is basically what helped me learn to write real good. I'll actually show chat, so I can actually just do it here if I want to.
I write real good. Real good.
Alright, so I think that finally answers that question. So yeah, lots of writing before you even get to writing. Alright, let me check the chat. We haven't... come on, people, questions, come on. I'll give you to 26. Like 2 minutes before I get Fusku to fire off another one. Wow, I think that's actually the quickest I've ever answered a question. Keep in
That's
mind,
pretty well answered, actually. You did good there. It was concise and relevant, and yeah, good job.
I do try. Keeping in mind that like that seems like it was only 2 minutes. It was actually a bit longer because I forgot to hit the timer right when the stream started. But yeah, I'm also gonna change his music. So come on, guys, let's have some questions, eh? I'm just gonna check how many people are here. Oh, we got 3 viewers, so come on, guys, I can see you there. Come on, load the viewer list.
One is you.
Neo,
One is
Neo,
me, and then
Neo,
we
give
have
us a question.
Nintendo.
I can see you there, Neo. I know you're there. Give us a question, Neo. Come on. Don't be a stick in the mud. I assume you came here because you wanted to ask me questions. I know I basically answered everything on like the thing on the Discord that you probably have asked me already, but you know, go nuts. I'll let you know if it's a question we've already answered in the previous one. But yeah, should actually probably turn this up a bit. Okay, I'm good background noise. That's interesting. Alright, we've got 30 seconds left.
Shocking, really. Shocking.
Basically anything you like, as long as it's like directed at either me or Fusgo. Like, what's my favorite color? Anything. It doesn't have to be specifically related to my games. If you actually want to ask a question, I'll give you a bit more time. What the fuck is Glunkbot? Because it was your last stream. Did I actually post that, dude? Oh, I went offline. What about... Oh, well. I'm sure it'll come around later.
Haha. You baited him. He's going to engage. Engage.
Oh, engage? Shit, I've got my thing. Oh, it was. Alright, cool. It's like this stream only just started, so we're not in a huge rush yet. Typically, I'm able to answer like 4 or 5, usually more questions a stream. It just depends on how much of a complex issue the questions are. Don't ask me why I don't, like one question I refuse to answer from now on is why don't I sell my games, because I covered that in the first episode, and I covered it for, God, 14 minutes. Because I had several different reasons, and I wanted to finally give a really established answer as to why. So, yeah. Anyway, you know what, Fusco, just ask another question, and when the ESL gamer, thinks of something, um, we'll get back to that. So, go ahead and ask me another question you had written down. Boy!
Okay. Go ahead, Biz.
No, go on. Oh.
Okay. So occasionally, anybody who interacts with you on Discord and other venues will notice that you disappear for 12 hours you're sleeping, I suppose. But like you'll just disappear for like a week, and you'll shut down everything and go into your little dev corner. And when you get back, you'll have a demo done. Talk about the
Yeah.
process that occurs when you just shut. Like, why do you shut everything off and just go into hermit mode? And what's going on when you do?
This it's actually a bit embarrassing to admit, but I have terrible problems with like self-control. So when I'm on a Discord chat, keep in mind I have Discord open constantly. I can't just close it because my company chat is also in there, as well as several different employees, including voice actors that I have to communicate with. So I can't just close down Discord. And whenever I see that there's a notification, I'll probably even just check sometimes because I'm like, I want to talk to people. So the aim of actually disconnecting myself from those chats is just to give myself another barrier, and that usually seems to do it. And I can be away for weeks at a time, like you said, just flogging away at game dev. Recently, I've actually been getting a fair bit of game dev done, despite being in the channels. But yeah, I'm getting better, but it's just a way I sort of like disconnect so I can really get into deep dev mode. So that's basically it. Also, when I do that, it's more letting deep dev mode encapsulate me, because sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I would rather do something else. But if I don't have anything else to really do, then deep dev mode comes a lot easier. Especially if I start, like I said, with the writing thing, listening to music and getting that all down. So I guess that's basically it. Yeah.
It's just about focus and removing distractions.
Yeah. It's like it's sort of like a Zen mode, a trance, I guess you'd say. So yeah, that's that. All right. So Neoso has a question. Sorry, I kept you waiting, buddy. He asks, "What the hell do you have against humans in your game?" Well, if you'd asked me this like a few years ago, this would have been even more relevant. But there's like 3 humans or more in Fantasia. Like the 3 main characters are humans.
Kinda.
They're humans. They're just humans with a freaking spirit inside them. And also like Miracro Speaker, this girl here is human. I mean, she's grey, but that's just like she's a subspecies of human. But I guess the answer I would give 3 years ago, as well as now, is that making everyone human is like, well, I'm just creative, I guess, and like making everyone a human is kind of boring to me. And I also had a lot of pets growing up. I mean, several of my characters were actually based on pets I had when I was growing up. Pets I had. Like, I had a cat, I actually went into this last stream, but I had a cat called Pepe Le Pew, which was the inspiration for Pep. And when people say Pepe to him, like nickname him Pepe, that's actually a reference to the cat's name. And it was a spastic cat, so I decided to name Pep after it, sort of like craziness. And then Nola was based on a cat named Nala, which I just changed because Nala's probably copyrighted by Disney or something. And like I had 2 cats at that time, one was Simba and one was Nala. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just grab Nala and change the AR to an O, and that's how Nala came about. And yeah, and that's how all those characters just sort of evolved. And when I was young, I also used to like make stuffed toys and like little clay oven figurines. I still have heaps of them. Yeah, that's basically it. Like when cause making a stuffed toy that's human seems kind of silly. Cause you're into things when you're a kid, and I just like animals and also elves. I think elves are cute. They have those elegant little pointy ears and that windswept charm to them that humans, they can do it, but not as easily. I just find it's much easier to do like a sort of elf imagining when I'm doing a character like that. But other than that, there's not really much reason. I just love doing. I like mixing it up, I guess. I mean, my first game that I released actually had a human, an elf, and two monkey sort of people. So you know, that was something. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Neo Soul.
Aren't the all the humans dead in one version of your universe?
One version of my universe.
Like the one where I think it's intelligence, where Peppy
Oh,
or
they're not
Pep
dead.
and
They're just
Trixie
there's just a
and
lot of them are dead. Like 1 billion of them are left. Yeah, Moore basically came to Earth and he's like, "Yo, sup? I'm gonna wreck your stuff." And they tried to fight back, and a lot of them died. So they're like, "Oh, screw it. Let's just get the hell out of here." And they went home. And thankfully, Moore just stayed put because you know he's like, "Oh, whatever. I'll just kill the animals now." And so now Pep, Tristy, and Rolly, and whoever else have to fucking deal with it. And so that's where that's about. Okay, cool. Better questions. I obviously have extensive knowledge of eventing in RPG Maker. As a result, I've come up with several workarounds in regards to the general limits of the engine. What was the most difficult thing you've ever invented with RPG Maker? Uh, that's a good question. It's a very good question. I will say that much. Um, I think honestly, it's not so much that it's difficult because I know like basically how the system and stuff works. It's more monotonous. Um, like when I think the toughest thing that I could mention would be the boss with member 12 in the equation unsolved in the like optional content of Menagerie. Because that was quite difficult. Because at that point, I didn't have a script where I could just, you know, or plug in. It was a script at the time because it was in VX Ace, where I could just check an event versus a player or another event's X and Y value via a simple script call. Back then, I had to do make 4 variables for every single projectile as well as for the player, and every yeah, it was something, alright. And when I was inventing, when this was something I curved a lot of the monotony with when I began developing the very first Perseverance one, which was in VX Ace, for the Indie Game Maker contest, which was in 2014. So it was $10,000 cash prize. And I was just like, hey, friendo Megs, I have a friend called Amiga7. Some of you might have heard of him if you've been around the RPG Maker community for a while. He's a pretty big name, and he's known for his coding, especially in the VX era. But I was like, hey, friendo, could you make me a script that does this? And then I thought, hey, you know what would be better, really cool too? Make me a script that does batch events. So he was like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that in about like a night. Just give me a sec, because he's using C++. He's like, man, Ruby's just baby shit at this point. And he just came back to me with a script that worked like a charm. There was a bit of a difficulty in transition when moving over to MV because that plugin, well, that script couldn't be used as a plugin. So eventually I got someone to help me out, but it had a lot of issues. And eventually I'm just like, hey, LTN Games, my friend that I've talked to like once or twice before, can you please help me out? And he did. He was really cool, and so he gave me the same sort of thing. It works basically the same. The only real difference is that instead of it being a comment in the event page, it's actually now an event note tag, because they added that in MV. And I'm like, you know what, this will work. So I went with that. And that's how I've basically just been building every single game since then that's had action-oriented, collision-based combat, like PFC, MV, and Fantasia, as is what I'm now working on. So yeah, that's hopefully that answers that question. Like, eventing in VX isn't actually hard, it's just a matter of knowing what you really are doing, and once you do, you can basically pull anything off once you just start trying stuff out. And that's like what I love doing. I just love experimenting and seeing how far I can break the engine and twist it and see how much I can get away with before it starts saying no, no, this is too much. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. All right, so I guess you can have a turn now, Fusego. Fusego.
Who, me? We get another turn?
Yeah, yeah, you get a turn. Sorry, I wanted to be nice to Neo, so 'cause, you know I sort of like.
I'm not actually being salty. I was
Okay,
just teasing.
okay. A question,
The monkey's so
cheeky.
easy to tease.
Yeah, I know, right? So, question, cheeky bum.
Okay. So next question then from moi. Hold on, I gotta find my list of questions. Where'd they go? I want to click, click, click. Okay, so uh, actually, you kind of went into it a little bit because I was gonna ask one of my questions was about your bullet hell eventing system. But
Oh man.
yeah, let's go from specifics of eventing. Let's go into kind of concept. Why did you choose? Like, what is it that you decided that would be kind of your thing? Why did you choose the that system of for your game? Like, you have a very visual novel style, so why visual novel plus bullet hell?
Oh right, yeah. So Fantasia originally it was just gonna be a simple bullet hell. You went from boss to boss, but I'm like, this needs something more. And at the time, I wasn't thinking I would make it a visual novel with boss fights. I just wanted to make it so you only fought bosses. You didn't have like regular enemy fights in there, and the other part of it was just exploration. So I wanted to have this very clear, like exploration based thing that did have bullet hell boss fights now strewn throughout. So that was basically what led into that. Because I remember one thing I always had trouble with in PFC was like, if I had too many enemies on screen, it would actually start to lag a fair bit. I'm like, I could easily avoid that just by making what I love making anyway, really cool boss fights, and just avoiding the minutia encounters in general. So that's basically what gave birth to that idea. And, yeah, like originally I was going to make it a lot more, exploration focused. But people were like, yo, dude, we need some more gameplay in here. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. If Give them what they want, because I love making bosses anyway. Um, so there's now like several bosses on each disc. There's, yeah, 3 discs. No, 5 discs planned for the whole game. 3 that are numbered. But yeah. Um, 3 that are numbered logically. There's like disc 0, disc 1, disc
You're,
2, disc 3, disc
you're showing
delta.
your age by calling the different chapters
Yeah.
discs.
Yeah, well, I usually do a different system. Like, I usually do a different episodic, like, naming system each game. The only 2 that have had one that's been identical has been Intelligence and PFC, or Perseverance Full Clearance. In Menagerie, they were called episodes. In Terror, they were called moons, because that game was all about the big moony stuff. In Hellcat, that was still called Axe, but I'd probably change that if I went further with that game. And in this game, they're called discs, and the reason I chose discs was because it made sense with how like the whole game is a sort of simulation, and the whole universe and cosmos is a simulation created by these 2 crazy girls. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just do the old fucking Final Fantasy switch disc thing, not literally, but give it that sort of feel. Currently, the way you switch discs is actually very much, not how it was envisioned. I'm gonna probably update that, so have one disc turn around and pop out of the thing, and then put another one in. Yeah, and then be like, okay, cool. Now we're in disc 1 or disc whatever. Sorry. So that was basically the idea behind that.
Well,
But
that's very interesting.
crap, I actually lost sight of the original question. But yeah, basically that I've already answered it on how I ended up coming up with the visual novel clashing with like evented crazy boss fight thing. Um,
Well, I think what's kind of fun about it is it does fulfill your need for storytelling, but adds like this little sprinkle of gameplay in there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
likes grinding anyway in an RPG, so like let's just give them the boss fights. I kind of like it. It's charming.
Yeah, I mean, if you want some like regular enemy like fights as well, there's PFC for that. And PFC, I took a lot of inspiration for Ratchet and Clank. From Ratchet and Clank, that's usually what I even in RPGs like Intelligence, I do tend to have some sequences that are based off Ratchet and Clank because I just love that game series so much. It taught me a lot of like really good game design values that people have praised me on consistently. Like the saving before the checkpoints before bosses, all kinds of stuff. I mean, a lot of games do it, but Ratchet and Clank was the game I played that really did it in a way that I remembered. Yeah, that's basically that. Alright, Neo, so you thought of another question? Sorry to milk you like this, buddy. I'll see if there's anyone else that's on the stream now. How much time we got left? We got 8 minutes still.
Are you gonna take both videos and chop them together for YouTube?
No, I'll just upload each video as it comes along. I'm surprised there's not many more people here. But, no, it's, the reason I do make these half an hour so that I can just, like, basically just take the raw recording, put it up on YouTube. That's what I did last time. Okay, I guess, the jury's out on... Oh! No, never mind, I just hasn't updated. Alright, so Fusco, I guess, do you have any other questions? I said make 3, at least. Wait, have we done?
I always have questions. I can always come up with questions for you. I'm useful. Next time I'm going to charge you for my time, I think, because my time's
Well, this isn't going to be a constant thing. I was just like, just figured each week I'll have someone different on the show as a guest star, I guess. So don't worry, I'm only going to ask
What
you
are
to do
you
this
paying me
once.
now?
Sorry?
What are you paying me now? Whatever it is, triple it.
Well, okay, I'll triple it gladly, because I'm paying you 0. So I'll just simply triple 0 by 0, which equals 0.
Yes! I got my salary tripled!
I hope you're proud of yourself.
I good negotiator. I good negotiator.
Alrighty. I already answered your other question. Well, shit. Okay, Fuse, it's up to you. Think of a question. We still got 7 minutes to kill. 7:11.
What did 7 minutes do to you? Why would you want to kill him?
It's a metaphor, dumbass. Now ask a question. So cheeky, honestly.
I'm stalling so I can come up with a question for you. Leave me alone.
At least this has been long.
Let's talk thematics.
Okay.
All right. So, what's the common thread in all your games and universes? Like, where's the common theme? What are you as an artist trying to say about reality and the nature of our existence within reality?
Oh, that's a good one. That's deep. It's too deep, but I'll do my best. I'll do what I can to answer it. So a lot of my games do have a very clear theme of like vigilantism. Like PFC is especially flagrant, but basically it's always like seems to be based around rebels trying to overpower things that are basically just using them for their own ill gain. Like in Intelligence, you start out as just trying to kill gods for the trying to kill ancient ones for the sake of the cosmos. That's not so much a thing of just killing a chaotic evil, but then the gods end up actually being the ones you have to worry about, and the end boss of that game is literally the god before the twins. And then, of course, in Fantasia, the 2 administrator twins are the ones you're fighting, and trying to like keep out of trouble with, but also trying to find a way to defeat and reason with. And same sort of thing in Hellcat. The whole idea of Hellcat is that Bubbles is enlisting people to work against Nurgo or Origin, and that who's basically God, and that ends up being following into the plot of Intelligence. What other games? Exile is like basically these are like not conforming to society and thinking society's kind of dumb, and so all my games sort of have this rebellious vigilante sort of tone to them. But at the same time, they're also like a lot of games. The characters pay heavily if they go too far. Like PFC especially. Like Pep really, like he succeeds, but bittersweetly. It really does not go well for him. So that's why he's a bit of a wreck by the time Intelligence 314th Clash comes about. So it's not just completely black and white, and that rebels are the good guys and imperialists are always the bad guys. There's usually a bit of like leeway on that. And what other games have? So that's basically one of the really recurring themes throughout the games I make. Is that typically the end result is you're going to be fighting some dude who owns you or tries to own you, or acts like they're in control. So that's sort of the deal. And and like usually another thematic thing is like, as most people can see, my games generally just have one single start out as one single word, then more gets added onto it as they progress with development. Like Intelligence, Perseverance, Crowfeast, Exile, all of them have one word names. I don't know how, and all of those one word names actually end up being super relevant to the plot, and also sometimes the characters, it depends. The other games that have a imperialistic, this Crowfeast is sort of like almost an inverse. Mira is a rebel, so are the Crow Speakers, but she ends up becoming the imperial power, and just being completely ruthless and terrible about it. So yeah, there's that too. So I do like to twist it up, but mostly you will end up fighting either someone who thinks they're in control, or someone who actually is in control, and you have to make so that's not the case anymore. Or fail in Pep's case. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix-up usually. That's all I can really think to say on about that. Obviously my games are also usually pretty colourful. The only one that isn't is Boned, because I just wanted to be lazy, so I'm just like, oh hey, just black and white palette. And that actually didn't go... That a lot of people are like, oh man, this game looks so good. I'm like, dude, it's just MS Paint graphics, and I only use 2 colours. It's not good, it's just cheap. But yeah, anyway, I guess that answers that question. And hey, we're almost out of time.
Yeah. Well, if you're up for one more question, I have one more for your stream.
Yep, go for it, mate.
Alright, so now a common theme I've seen in your characterizations, and this is both among your protagonists and your antagonists. Social groups, especially like family, and whether they be biological or forced families, seem to be really strong. So talk about your feeling about families and how important that is. Why do all your characters form really tightly groups with strong bonds, and what does that say about you as a dev and an artist?
All right, that's a really good question. We might need to go over time, but that's fine. So that is I had a really supportive family growing up. My bro was sort of the one who was I started out as a rebel, but then I sort of just calmed, and my bro got rebellious, but in a cool way that I always sort of admired about him. And we were always really close. Like I just lived with my mum and my bro, sometimes my grandmother, sometimes my stepdad. But we just were, whatever it was, we typically were really close, and just so I guess that would probably have to do with why I seem to be able to write families and make them seem really close, because that's what I grew up with. And I figured, just because they're a villain doesn't mean they're not going to have that same sort of thing. And I always found it was always really charming when the villain's in a game. One of the examples that comes to my head is Warcraft 3, with Arthas and Kel'Thuzad and that group, because they were sort of like friends and buddy with each other, just not with the people they were fighting. which made it quite like believable them as a villain. So that's time, but I'm just gonna keep going with this question. So yeah, the dynamic I really like also just character interaction. Because I grew up in a lot of cartoons where there was usually at least a trio or at least duo of characters, and they would have a really good synergy and dynamic. That would be really dynamic, and so I really tried to go off that. Like in Intelligence, which was the first game I really did that sort of thing. That was the three characters were based off Ed, Ed, and Eddie in their personality and dynamic. Like Tristy is Double D, Rolly is Ed, and Pep is Eddie. There's very clear, and even Pep's voice sounds pretty similar to the voice Eddie has. It's not quite the same. There's definitely differences, but that is, and like I use sort of Rolly sort of voice as well, a Rolly Ed voice for Rolly as well. And once I was happy with that, I started experimenting more and just thinking, okay. Another reason I do tend to make them very close, the reason for making them close at all, is usually that they're a small little group fighting against a foe that's much larger than they are, so they do tend to get much closer than, say, the enemies might when, there's hundreds and billions even of them against, like, this group that becomes very, close-knit and, friendly to each other. Like, Menagerie is actually one of the examples where I sort of took the grain away from that a bit. Like, because, Spooky was hard to get along with. He's sort of like me in that regard. Because he would just say whatever the hell he was thinking at the time. And, it did not go down well with people like Gerald or Fiore or Fatty, who, were more, somber types. Like, Fatty got on with him. He was, he was like the Rolly of that group. He was very averse. Didn't really mind, that, he got insulted, because he was just happy to be, like, part of the group. Fiore was a little more easy to offend. And Gerald got mad about a lot of things that Spooky said because they were quite insensitive. And he did almost see Spooky as, sort of evil, or at least, like, apathetically rotten character. But he does sort of, like, lean towards Spooky at the end of the game, even though Spooky's still like, I still don't really like you. So, I just think, and it's so important for your, like, if something tragic happens, the idea is that you should actually care about it. And a lot of tragic stuff happens in PFC, and the more people that you lose, in your family, the closer the rest of you get. So yeah, it's a heart tugger, that one. Heartstring tugger, I should say. So that's I guess my reasoning for it. Like I said, it's not really something I can give a solidly definitive answer, but that's at least as much as I can glean on the matter. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it was good. It was good, Biz.
Cool.
You could take a run. I can mention a word and you could probably take a run with it. So that was good.
Alright, phew. Okay, because I was worried I answered that not great. Anyway, as that's time go. That's actually overtime. But thank you all for watching. Whoever you did, this video will be up on the Crazy Chimp Collective channel. So don't worry if you missed it. It'll be up there and it'll all be in thing. The recording software hasn't bugged or broken. So yeah, guys, a heads up, we will not be doing this every day. I'll be changing the schedule to weekly. I just want to get this like sort of formula down. Now that I know it works well and it's got a good vibe to it, we'll probably go to doing it once a week. Keep in mind, Fusegu may not be here in future streams. He might be once or twice, depends if he wants to be. But yeah, and some weeks I'm probably actually going to be talking with people who helped develop the game. It just depends how their schedules are looking, how they work, etc. So until then, talk to you all later. Thank you so much for watching and asking questions. Thank you, NeoSoul, for for participating. I'm running out of breath now. See you all later.